Thank you. Oh, good evening, members, officers, and those members of the public here at this meeting and those joining us virtually for this extraordinary full council meeting. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies received from councillors Hall, councillor Heppel, councillor Lever, councillor Pennington and councillor Thomas.
Thank you.
Councillor Newton is on his way.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is public contributions, and we've got one speaker registered, which is Mr. Ron Skinner. Mr. Skinner, if you'd like to come up to the podium there, you have 3 minutes when you want to speak.
Is this one working back to you?
Yeah, it's absolutely speaking. You might hold it down a bit, just hold it down.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here as a critical friend, Tom Hartland. All of you would have had an email from me on the 2nd of July inviting you to a public meeting in Clovelly. That followed my presentation to the External Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 24th of April. I've had no replies. Doesn't look good, does it? How many of you looked at the information I suggested at that scrutiny meeting from 7 concerned citizens? How many of you looked at the suggestion of looking at the climate, the movie, or the 57-page report from Clintel, a group of independent scientists? I'll guess, none of you. This is my personal invitation to you guys to come to that meeting. All councillors, all officers. I'm putting out an extra special invitation to leaders of the individual political groups, councillors Brenton, Cottle Hunkin, Hames, Hawkins, James, Newton. Councillor Hames, can't see you here, mate.
I'm here.
Not here.
I'm here. He's down here.
Okay. We've known each other for 40 years. This is your subject, climate change. You need to be there, mate. Officer Hurst, Officer Dory, and I think Kearney as well have responsibilities around democratic process and climate change. Please come. Okay, why should you come? Why should you even reply to me? Because I've had not even a reply, which for me seems a little rude. So that's all of you virtually. There is one reply. You might actually learn something. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? I would suggest it's even your job to come, because effectively one side of the argument hasn't been discussed. I would suggest that you don't even know about it mostly. And it's your responsibility under the Nolan principles. Following on from that and my email, I'd actually like to have a special meeting with Officer Dory to look at the processes of public participation, the processes of public consultation at Torridge District Council, and especially the timeline around the endorsement of the Devon and Cornwall and Isles of Scilly adaptation strategy.
If you could wind up, Mr. Skinner, please.
Okay. Following notice status given by the Community and Resources Committee. It doesn't look good politically. It doesn't look good from an open democratic process.
Time is up, Mr. Skinner.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you at the Clovelly meeting.
Item 3, declarations of interest. Members with interest to declare should refer to the agenda item and describe the nature of their interest when the item is being discussed. Item 4, agreement of items between part 1 and part 2. There are no part 2 items. Item 5, to consider correspondence brought forward by the chair. I've just been made aware of an email that's gone out, the housing strategy workshop A number of you have replied, but quite a few haven't, so, if I can encourage you to reply to that, I'll respond to that email one way or the other. Thank you. Item 6 is the Torridge Place story, which is pages 4 to 46 on your agenda. In your fact, the chief executive is going to present with them.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm going to start just a short presentation, then I'll invite Paul Foles to say a few words. Paul's the chair of Torridge Place Board. I think then our leader, Councillor James, will say a few words to conclude. But before I kind of go into the detail of the Torridge Place story, you've got this is the first report, a number of reports on your agenda this evening, particularly around the work of the council's strategic plan. So you've got the place story, the Northern Devon economic strategy, Northern Devon maritime growth vision, a response to X-Links, a productivity plan, and a peer review. They all have a theme leading through them, linked to the council's strategic plan, linked to many of the good things the council's doing, and links to many of the opportunities and ambitions of the council. Tom, so I've set out on there the particular elements of the council's strategic plan that these are quite closely linked to. So under the theme local economy, we've got a priority there of being ambitious and responsive to inward investment, new emerging sectors and technology, encouraging aspiration and facilitate growth to create a thriving economy with quality jobs, supporting rural diversification and development where possible, promote and support opportunities for better employment to improve training, skills, education and apprenticeships, and supports businesses and the local economy district-wide. So through these reports that are before you tonight, they all strike the theme of delivering on the strategic plan. So just a couple of slides around the place story and how it's developed and where it's come from. So I'm sure you'll all be aware the council during the period of the last government was in discussion and negotiation with the government around a levelling up partnership. So the place story was a key feature of developing that relationship, that partnership with government. We had a wide range of engagement and input to developing the place story. All councillors were invited to workshops that took place. We met with the mayors and clerks of our town councils. The place board met on a number of occasions to develop the place story, as well as input from a range of other external stakeholders. So the place story itself raises awareness of the challenges Torridge faces as an area, which I'm sure you're all acutely aware of. Highlights some of the potential opportunities with which we should be looking toward and looking to grasp to improve our area, and showcases what we have to offer as an investable area, particularly in some of these emerging sectors. So we've set the place story out, and I'm sure members will have gone through it and looked at it in detail and picked out those opportunity sectors. It goes into much further detail through the document, but the things around clean maritime, green energy, aquaculture, innovative agriculture, creative and digital industry, as well as seeking a year-round sustainable visitor economy. So just to finalise, so the recommendations are for members to adopt the Torridge Place story. It's already been adopted by the Torridge Place Board. So I'll hand over to Paul Foles just to say a couple of words.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to say a few words about the place story and, of course, the joint strategy and the clean maritime growth vision. I should start by thanking all of those that have taken part in the creation of the place story, and in particular those that have been part of the Torridge Place Board, which I have the privilege to chair. Your input has been hugely valued. There are 3 points that I would like to make. Firstly, the work of your economic development team here has been superb and has not gone unnoticed from by scale investors looking to invest in Devon. Most notably, of course, the Crown Estate, who are very keen to work and reflect that the storytelling that's been done in Torridge is an exemplar of how other regions should look at telling their story. So huge credit to the team. And, you know, huge credit that they got it over the line. Frankly, it's great news. And whether we get the levelling up funding or not, and of course, we should be chasing the new government on that front. The place story is still critical to have in place. Secondly, as we seek to encourage investment into the UK, the South West and Torridge, it is critical that we play a collegiate role by working with our friends in wider North Devon. And I'm very pleased to see that happen. It's hugely important. Inward investors largely do not care and are ambivalent about administrative boundaries. So the fact that you're working so closely together across the Northern Devon arc, I think is hugely important. And third and finally, for us to thrive, the role of business and commerce is hugely important. It is arguably the case that without commerce, government, both national and local, does not have any funding to dispense, which provides for the services that people expect from their local authorities. So business and commerce is absolutely vital, and we should be there to support full scale inward investment opportunities, because I think they will be good for our region. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. And would you like to sum up? Right, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul. We've praised our officers. I think I should praise the work you've done as chairman and leading it. I think we've had a good reception from the previous government and the civil servants to where we're going. I think obviously we're waiting to see what the new government decides on whether they're going to carry on with this or not. So we'll wait and see that. But I think the issue of it is, I think it does show what an exciting time we've got in Torridge and the opportunities and what we can pursue, even if we don't get the levelling up partnership money, which we're hoping we do, but at least it's a good grounding for opportunities and where we're going, particularly with the green energy, because we know we're doing that. We've got the money, we're moving forward with that. So I would just like to follow the recommendations and ask the council to approve it. Thank you. Thank you for your proposal, that, Ken.
Yeah.
Someone like to second that? Councillor Newton seconded it. So. Okay, you've heard that report. Any before we? Councillor Dart?
Can I, thank you, Chair, can I just question, on page, it says 20, but I don't know, it's page 12 of the actual, strategy. The construction of new homes is stagnating, making it difficult to meet local housing needs. Is it actually stagnated? Because that is not evident from what's happening out there.
It doesn't feel like it to me, but,
No.
the local housing was stagnating apparently.
The construction.
The
of local
construction.
housing.
What the local needs, Chair?
It doesn't say that. It says local housing needs, but I would say the construction of new homes is stagnating.
I certainly would think it is when you look at the building that's going on, certainly within the immediate Bidford area, isn't it?
There are a couple of other observations, if I may. One of them is relating to the Hatchmore Industrial Estate. And the reason I'm not standing up is because I can't see very well. Today, there is significant demand for innovation, retail and professional service space surrounding the existing cattle market. And that is under Hatchmore Industrial Estate. So I think that could be misplaced, that sentence. It's a small thing. And then there is one more thing, which I didn't know, but there is reference to salmon. Salmon, mussels and oysters. Now, do we actually have a lot of salmon? Provision of salmon here? I didn't know that. In the Torridge, yeah.
Sorry, Sean would
Are we
like to
big
answer
on
that one.
salmon?
That's right, Chair. No, thank you very much, Councillor Dart. I think all of those comments are directed at the economic strategy report rather than the place story. I think they're all relevant.
Oh, am I on the wrong one?
Yeah, but it's fine. I think they're all relevant to that, and we can take them into consideration when we get to.
Councillor Bible, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Come back down if you want.
Just an observation, I commend the quality and content of the reports and the joined up thinking that's demonstrated throughout them all. Although the challenge will be, of course, implementation and formulation of effective policies to deliver these hopes and aspirations. I realise our working relationship is predominantly with North Devon, but looking at just this Torridge Place story, we must also be aware of the impact on our place and our economy of places such as Launceston in the south, and the tourism giant that is North Cornwall, and places like Bude to our west. These areas and centres are much closer to some of our residents than some of the other ones that are noted in the documents. And our residents rely on these partners, and they do provide huge opportunities to many of our residents and communities. It's just an observation to say that they are there, and there are opportunities working with them. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Tinsey, you want to say this?
Yeah, I mean, will it need amending, the place story, given the discussion about levelling up? Will it need amending perhaps? Is it going to go to print now, or is there an opportunity for further input into it? Because personally, I thought that the pitch all around clean energy was absolutely excellent, brilliant. But I was a bit disappointed that the items on the cultural and heritage and tourism seemed like a bit of an afterthought. And I think that there could have been much more. What I'd really like to have seen was the energy and creativity that went into developing that pitch for clean energy to also go into the tourism and the cultural side, which felt a little bit weak in comparison. That's my observation.
Chair, sorry, thanks. So obviously we don't know the future. Levelling up as a term is gone. We don't know whether the funding is still there and still available. So the principles this was developed upon were delivering on the metrics of the Levelling Up partnership. So higher wages, higher GVA, higher skills, and life expectancies. So the things that were picked out were driving directly towards those. So whilst culture has been picked up, it wasn't seen as the ability to change those metrics as significantly as some of the other energy opportunities.
Councillor Branton. Councillor Mrs. Branton.
Thank you, Chair. Right, well, it's true that this is very nice, what we've got in the place story, but I totally agree with Councillor Tinsley that I just feel that there's a lot that hasn't been included yet, and perhaps should. We just had Mr. Skinner commenting on something that he feels we should all know about, and we don't. I don't quite know specifically in climate terms what that is, but it may be really important, and I feel we should know it. And there are various other issues, such as childcare, sociological situations with people who are disadvantaged in the housing area. There's a lot of stuff that isn't included in this. The more darker side of the problems of Torridge, the very reasons why we were included in levelling up, they're not really addressed here. It's very much a sort of rural idyll with industrial and other areas included. When they're very good, but really I do not see this as a comprehensive application for us to deserve to have government funding. And we don't know that Angela Rayner and Department of Community might not decide on a much more specific sociological and demographical target towards those areas of deprivation that at the moment aren't mentioned in here, or at least not very much. So I would suggest, and bearing what councillor Tinsley says, that we actually defer this. What there is of it is good, but I don't feel it's enough. And I feel there are other areas of the community that still haven't been addressed. It's not comprehensive enough for somebody to really look at it and say, this place deserves everything we can do to help it. So I would propose, and this is a counter proposal, that we defer this and put it on hold until we get more information from the Department of Communities about the direction that they're travelling in. Because otherwise, if we approve this now and something happens such as that they change their tack completely, A, it will be for nothing, or B, we'll have to totally amend it. And that seems a total waste of time, more officer effort for no reason. So that's my proposal, that we put this on hold by deferring it for the moment.
Second that.
Right, okay. Do you want to speak, councillor?
If I may.
Yeah,
Chair.
please.
Chair, if I may just say, my understanding is that this is about putting out our pitch. This is out advertising. This is looking at external investment coming in. It's not so much about putting all our dirty washing out on the table and saying this is. We're looking at the good points for macro level investment to come into the district. And it's that we've lacked in the past. We've got to get big and actually say, this is what we've got, this is what's coming. I completely understand Councillor Brenton's thing that there's lots of other socio-economic issues and problems going on here, but not surely in this document, because actually that will just put people off. We want people to join us and to be good.
Just bring the chief executive a second.
Thanks, Chair. And just to assure Councillor Mr. Brenton, we are currently writing to Angela Rayner as the Secretary of State to establish the position in terms of the funding for Torridge. Obviously, we needed to bring this paper to you this evening because that needs to go with the letter setting out, as Councillor Newton said, our pitch for that funding.
Okay, we've got two proposals, and it's both been proposed and seconded, we take them in the order that they came, so the notice of motion is been seconded that we adopt this report as presented. All those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, 27 for abstentions. Chair.
Sorry, what was that, Tom?
27 and then 4.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then to item 7 on your agenda, North Devon and Torridge Economic Strategy 2004 to 29, pages 47 to 119, and Sean and others will present this report. Sean's name.
Thank you, Chair. First, Councillor Dart, you were right, it was in the place story.
Thank you.
So I'll start with that one. Really pleased to present to you the draft North Devon and Torridge Economic Strategy. It's been a big piece of work putting this together, and I hope you find it a good piece of work. Next slide, please, Tom. So what's the purpose of an economic strategy? Well, it sets out a vision, the economic future of our two districts. It demonstrates that we have a clear understanding of the challenges faced by our districts and the opportunities that are available to us to meet those challenges. We hope it will inform development of policy in our new local plan. It's a really important document for guiding our land use strategy. We think it promotes North Devon and Torridge is open for business. Next slide, please, Tom. So, how will it do those things? Well, shaping the future economy of the area will focus on building thriving sectoral clusters. So that we've identified through all of the work that's been done 5 key sectors. Now I know there's 6 bullet points. So pharmaceutical and healthcare and wellbeing, clean maritime and green energy, which you can hear a lot more about in a second. Agriculture, food, drink, and the green economy, obviously so very relevant to both districts. Creative industries, as picked up already in the discussion. And a year-round diverse visitor economy, because obviously we don't want to forget some of our base industries that we have locally. And then a cross-cutting theme that runs through everything is placing the net zero transition at the heart of everything we do, because that is seen as an opportunity for us moving forward. Next slide, please. So it's been developed in partnership. It's cognizant of our own corporate strategy. So obviously cognizant of North Devon's as well, because it's a joint document. We've run joint member workshops, so you have had an input or had the opportunity to have an input into this. The dates of the 3 workshops are listed there, the last one being a joint event at Petrock, where things like childcare were debated quite significantly. But it's also probably equally importantly had input from people outside of our council, driven by the Economy and Skills Action Group, which is made up of business leaders from the area, supported by other public sector agencies. And we've also done a lot of work with Crown Estate and the universities of Plymouth and Exeter in the development of this document. Next slide, please, Tom. More importantly than developed in partnership, we hope it will be delivered in partnership. The document sets out how we will drive the competitiveness of the area, support the local skills agenda, improve collaboration and information sharing across multiple disciplines. But the partnership there and a number of the key partners are listed on the side of the slide there. They've been involved in the evolution of the document and they're committed to helping us deliver it. So we hope, moving on to the next slide, you'll be happy to receive that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions? Councillor Haynes first.
Yeah, on page 94.5, it refers to committed to achieving net carbon zero by 2050. My understanding was this council, it's for 2030. So I'm not quite sure where that figure came from.
Yeah, we have, as a council, committed to 2030, so I can't see it in front of me at the moment, but that's an inaccuracy.
As long as I get title then.
Yeah.
Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's essential that we adopt this document. It's going to form the sort of background basis that's necessary for the JPPC and all the working groups and all the lot for the new local plan. It's all a part of it. Chris Fuller has produced this document. It might be perfect, but as Sean said, a few amendments can be made. Thank you, Councillor Dart. But I propose the adoption of it.
Thank you. Councillor James, a second.
Yeah, I'm happy to second, and just to add, both from Councillor Newton and from Bob, is that the economy will, if we drive the economy forward, we will get funding to tackle some of the issues we face. If we haven't got the money, we simply won't have the funding to do the things we want to do, the nice things, things that our members, our community deserve. So let's have a prosperous economy. Let's attract firms and it goes together with the last one. There's a lot of firms interested in coming here. And what we must do is to get the income to deal with the deprivation, the lack of help with young children and things like that. So I'm happy to second it and say, let's just go on and get this economy driving and deliver something for our communities. Thank you.
Councillor Tenzing, you want to spend?
Yeah, just picking up on if there's an opportunity to amend or add slightly, it would be really good to see the Heritage Harbour mentioned more strongly, and heritage tourism, which is not mentioned at all, which really should be part of an all year round tourist economy. And I was surprised to see astro tourism, but not heritage tourism. So if there's a possibility to strengthen that, it would be very good.
Chair, I mean, the second part of the recommendation there delegates I'll ask you to delegate authority to chief executive in consultation with the leader around some minor amendments. I think monumental amendments to the document would be difficult because it's been agreed in consultation with North Devon, but smaller things like that might be possible.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, well. Councillor Dodd.
I'll be brief.
Thank you.
Just to say that when we had our first meeting of the economic working group on Friday, of which you were there, it became very apparent with the North Devon members as well, so it's not just me, that Petroc is leaving a lot to be desired for our young people. And that fundamentally feeds into this document. And within this document, there is specific reference to, and I've lost the page, that's just different, but to lobbying the government effectively for suitable financial input into our education system. And somehow Petroc needs to harness that financial input into this area, because without that, everything goes to Exeter and our young people are missing out big time. And there is reference to that in this document in regard to rural, thriving rural communities. Our young people make the effort to go to Petroc. Invariably, some tutors don't turn up, their lessons can be cancelled and they're stuck there. And actually, it's not a good example of how to operate in this modern world. So ultimately, I am raising awareness to all of you that whatever group you're involved in, will you please have that in the back of your minds that our young people fundamentally need it from the outset. Our schools are mentioned, but Petroc is not really in there, and we really do need to, in whatever context we can, lobby Petroc and the government to actually do their very best for our young people. That's where this all starts. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Cotton.
That's very brief, but I was just really pleased that it was acknowledged in there about the lack of childcare provision in Torridge, and that is a huge issue for a huge number of our population here, and it was missing in the draft, but I'm really pleased that it's been added in, so thank you for that.
Okay, well, it's been proposed and seconded that we adopt this plan. All those in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8 on your agenda, the North Devon College Clean Maritime Growth Vision, pages 120 to 155. And Chris Fuller, the Economic Development Officer, is going to present the report. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. In effect, the Clean Maritime Growth Vision is the first of the most extrapolated key cluster elements from the economic strategy. Been a bit of a juggling act over the last 6 months to make sure that all of these different pieces of work all directly link in together. And that's come from the different requests that we've had from different bodies and different agencies to make sure that we're delivering on these different reports. In effect, and many of you will merrily roll your eyes when I say this, far too many people have had to listen to me talking about the different strands of activity, everything from the seaweed farm off Heartland through to the opportunities coming forward around floating offshore wind, and that's before I start boring everyone with the Appledore Clean Maritime Innovation Centre. That's great on a local level, and that's great if people are forced to be locked in a room with me, but actually, and coming back to kind of the points that Councillor Newton, Councillor James, and also Councillor Hicks have raised, as well as Paul Coles. So much of this is around attracting the right kind of investment into Torridge and North Devon moving forward that truly benefits not only our economy, but also inherently our communities and protects our environment. And North Devon and Torridge Clean Maritime Growth Vision is something that we need to be raising national level awareness of, as we are genuinely considered to be forerunners in this. And I thank Paul as well in terms of his comment around storytelling. that is getting really good traction, both within kind of Westminster and from the private sector, and that's good. But it's all in good having these different strands that are identified separately. What this vision is trying to achieve is how we actually demonstrate that these can work in tandem rather than in competition. Everything from how the floating offshore wind arrays, in 10 years' time, will need massive amounts of environmental monitoring. Rather than sending people off in vessels into challenging waters, how do we support the sensors? That's exactly the same as will be required for the sea. Just bring everything together, look at it in one place. And so to make sure that it's that visibility is there, so we can then be making sure that we're attracting the investment. And hopefully, in a fairly graphic style, this document does bring that together, and we've tried to work quite hard to remove jargon wherever possible to make sure that it was fairly accessible. And one thing that we're keen to do now is to explore actually how this can almost be transferred into even more simplified versions, with a view to hopefully being able in PDF form to distribute kind of almost a one-page version that we want to make up for primary schools, a one-page version for secondary schools, so we can start expanding that narrative moving forward, just to make sure we can find funding as well for that sort of stuff. And similar to the economic strategy, it is all about how we're playing our role as a facilitator at Torridge and at North Devon Council, rather than having to be us doing all the work, which is conventionally how it's always been, that kind of everyone turns to Torridge and goes, what are you doing? Whereas actually this is about getting multiple businesses, multiple agencies, all working towards the same defined objectives, to therefore, coming back to the points made by Councillor Svensson earlier, actually truly address some of those deprivation and social mobility issues that we're also passionate about. And it's great that today I'm able to include the email address at the bottom there, because today the new Clean Maritime and Green Energy Officer started at North Devon Plus, who will be working across the two districts to actually help deliver on these on this vision. So similar to Sean, and I'll put it to members to hopefully support.
Thank you for that presentation, Chris. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The lead member of economy, I'm going to propose the adoption of this one. It's very, very simple, really. Cambridge is the IT leader of this country. We need to be the leader of maritime and clean energy. And this is moving us that way.
Okay, no other comments. It's been proposed and it's been seconded. All in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Chair.
Against? Oh, sorry, unanimous, sorry. I thought I saw some people. Right, okay, being on to item 9, the X-Links consultation response, pages 156 to 186. And to receive a report of the planning manager.
I've got to declare an interest.
Right, okay, thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Hicks is leaving the room for the benefit of the recording as he's declaring interest.
Thank you, Jack. So the report before you, and there are 3 appendices, relates to the current consultation that X-Links are undertaking. The purpose of the report, as set out on page 156, is for you as a council to consider the council's response to this current pre-application consultation, together with a proposal for the establishment of a member working group to support the council's inputs to the development consent order process moving forwards. As I'm sure you're all aware, the X-Links project is a new electricity generation facility that's entirely powered by solar and wind energy, combined with battery storage, it will be located in Morocco and then connect to Great Britain via approximately 4,000 kilometres of high voltage subsea cables. It's indicated that the power generated could supply around 8% of Great Britain's electricity needs. The report provides some background to nationally significant infrastructure project and the development consent order process. This is the first NSIC that we've had in Torridge, maybe the only one we ever had. It is a new process to all of us. It was confirmed in August of last year by the Secretary of State that the project is an NSIP. I hope the background information is helpful to you all. We've been, as officers, in discussion with Excellence since 2021. There have been a number of briefings to members. The most recent being on the 18th of June. I know many of you attended that briefing and recording was circulated. So hopefully you'll have had a chance to have looked at that. The illustration on page 158 just sort of sets out the stages that we will have to go through. This is going to go on for another sort of 2 years, potentially, the process. And we're just at that first stage at the moment, which is pre-application engagement. The legislation around the development consent order process does very much direct that lots of input needs to happen at that pre-application stage. So we are a host authority. We're going to determine the development consent order. We are jointly with Devon County a host authority. So we are a key statutory constituency in the process. So for the past sort of month or two, we have been having regular technical meetings with various respective teams at Excellence. And we're working very closely with Devon County Council. We have regular meetings with them on technical matters, recognising our respective remits. The pre-application stage will continue beyond the submission of these comments, probably for another 4 to 5 months. They are looking to submit the DCO in November, December time. So what's before you is draft representations, Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. There are 2 separate sets of information that form part of this Section 42 statutory pre-application consultation. There is the preliminary environmental information report, which is 400-page document. It's a very technical document. It essentially gives a sort of snapshot in time of the environmental impact assessment work that Excellence has been undertaking. It is extensive and it's very detailed. There has also been a set of very general questions that have been put forward by Excellence just to get views. So the draft representations before you, the draft to the PIA, the Environmental Information Report, is by its nature a technical submission. We wouldn't normally bring such a technical representation before full council. It's been compiled with inputs from a range of TDC officers. We've also appointed an external landscape expert to kind of interrogate the methodology on landscape and visual impact assessment. We have appointed an ecologist, however, they will start to look at things from next week and will be involved in meetings going forward. The general question, again, it is a snapshot, it's a point in time. Thank you to all the members who did provide some suggestions and comments on what they felt should go into that general question response. It's very much setting a marker down that we want to continue to engage. It refers to the strategies that you've just considered and the need for, as we move forward, the project does need to have regard to those. A key section and a lot of questions are asked on this at the briefing session is around community benefit package, and officers realise this is a crucially important element for members. The draft response doesn't give a clear sort of proposal for what that should look like. It wouldn't be appropriate to do that at this stage, but that is something certainly that members will need to feed into moving forward. So you have your 2 appendices and the representations. There is also a third appendix which contains a proposal for a member working group. Now, there are going to be many stages to this process. Officers feel in order to have the best possible and effective engagement with members, that there would be merit in establishing a working group. The suggestions for the operating procedures are Appendix 3. The suggested makeup of that working group is it's across page 160 and 161 of your agenda. That's just sort of starter for your consideration. We have identified the 3 key wards that the works will go through and suggested that those ward members would be obvious members to be involved in the working group, together with the lead members for planning, economy and climate. Given the nature of the project, it is essentially a planning process, and that it's crucially has potential linked with the strategies you've just considered in terms of the economy, and this is fundamentally about tackling climate change. That is just a suggestion, and it would obviously be open to members to comment on that or suggest otherwise. So just finally on the recommendations is that the council agrees with submissions of the representations, but recognising we're still very much within that pre-application process. This doesn't prevent us from continuing to engage, and there will be more issues that will come up in further development around community benefit, and also to agree for the set-up of a dedicated member working group, recognising the importance of that officer-member relationship of this. Thank you.
Councillor Carter Hodgins, right?
I'm sure it's already been recognised, but councillor Hicks is lead member for economy, so he obviously can't sit on that working.
Yeah, we've already got that one on.
So that would need to be changed.
Yeah, there will be. Councillor Rock, you want to speak first?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to thank Helen and the team for such an interesting and technical and informative report. And as you said, it's something entirely new to Torridge. But I think it's vital that under the financial application section, that we keep a close tab on all our expenses to claim back from Xlinks, otherwise they can absolutely run away from us. And we cannot afford to lose any officer time on it. So I ask that the financial is taken care of. And I welcome the idea of a members working group, and I propose that the council agrees and adopts the 2 recommendations under bullet point 5.
I asked that very question. I asked that very question of Helen only this morning with reference to all the costs and all the hours that our officers are putting in this. Sorry.
Chair, I think Stacey's just going to respond in terms of the makeup of the working group, because some members have.
Yeah, I don't minded to bring back appendix 3 and rethink the working group members for the reason that Councillor Hunkin has just flagged, and Monkley and Puckford, those 2 ward members, are Councillor Hicks again, who's declared an interest and left the room, so I presume that's a pecuniary interest. And also Councillor Pennington isn't here tonight, but he's also declared an interest as well. I'm not 100% sure of the nature of that at this stage, so I think if members agree, can we bring, or maybe have a discussion with the group leaders, however members want to deal with it, but that's definitely 3 of those working councillors that aren't able to sit on this working group, unfortunately.
I think that's the best way to go, is to leave it to the group leaders to come up with a suggestion. Would you then, Councillor?
Yeah, but thank you. I'm going to second the motion and just raise that issue. And also within it, there is talk of the community benefit package, and I think that needs to be discussed within the users as well. With Helen, what is exactly is our wish list, if you put it that way. So obviously, I think we need to bring that one back about the members of the group back to the group leaders meeting, and also to add into it is that the working group then will look at the community benefit package of how that forms. Because obviously there will be different views about the wider area, the specific area, and the types of things. So I would propose we do that as an amendment.
Yeah. I'm just bringing Councillor Piper first in his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Just really to reiterate Councillor James's comments on the community benefits, and I was pleased to see on page 184 mention of potential benefits with connection to the countryside, footpaths, cycling paths. I partly say it because I know that Councillor Thomas, who I don't think is here, has worked on that in the past. I think that's really important. We've got a major national infrastructure project going on, and it's an opportunity actually to right some of the wrongs of previous major infrastructure projects like our railways. that were taken away from us, and now, you know, we don't have any benefit from them. So, you know, and the only thing that worries me somewhat is that I'm not sure the point of all these consultation processes, if a stymie to that is going to be that landowner agreements and easements have already been tied up. Seems a bit wrong way around to me, but good to see that in there, and hopefully those community benefits packages will be consulted with everybody. Thanks.
Councillor Rock, were you happy with the amendments that Councillor James made?
Yes, certainly.
Councillor Haynes?
Yeah, just in our discussions with X-Links, to sort of perhaps in the course of it, to clarify the situation about the world shortage of cable and cable laying facilities, which I gather is possibly developing into a crisis. So it would be interesting to clarify the situation with X-Links on that.
And my understanding was that X-Links have bought are building a large factory in Scotland and manufacturing cables themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Branton, do you have your hand up there?
Thank you, sir. Yes, in the report, it mentions that a specialist solicitor is going to be employed somewhere. I can't remember the page here. But as at point 215, it does state that the Constitution doesn't allow Porridge to not include any provision for the council's involvement in nationally significant infrastructure project. The other one, development, development, whatever it's ordered. It's obviously quite important that we do have some really expert in this, because it is, as I said, it is completely new to this council, and there's no real expertise or experience in dealing with this sort of situation. And we all know that there's a lot of hiccups and problems, legal problems that can arise, including local people taking out injunctions or whatever. You know, there's an infinite variety of legal barriers that could be put up, whether you're pro or anti this. So I really do feel that this needs to be confirmed, and also once this legal expert is in place and paid by Torridge, is there any ability to access it on behalf of councillors if they have an issue, either in their ward, if they're in the line of the cabling, etc., or just in general discussion over areas that of deep concern among members of the council about how this is going to be. The idea is good, possibly, but really it's a major upheaval for the whole area, and it will have implications for the whole area. And it even says here there could be inadvertent health and whatever implications. So I do think, you know, we should look at this in the round. It is a huge project. It could cause a great deal of chaos in the area, and we do need to have a very strong legal case to cover anything that goes wrong. And also councillors need to have some kind of access to expert scrutiny of how this should be developed, rather than how it might be developed.
Would you like to
Yes,
respond to that?
yes, thank you, councillor Brenton. So the solicitor is a joint construction with Devon County Council. And he is very experienced in Ownstead. He is based in Bristol. But his sort of instruction is quite wide, really. It's initially just to advise on the content of the planning performance agreements, which sets out the expectation of service and remuneration, as councillor Locke referred to. However, we are looking at expanding that scope to include advice on governance, so there would be potential for briefings to members, and also just to lead us and guide us through that whole process. There is a number of stages. There will be an examination, which is coordinated by the planning inspectorate. So there will be some quite significant submissions that we have to make to that. So he will guide us through the process and check the sort of legal standings of things. But certainly I would hope that if there were questions, it could be whether they're through the member working group or just other questions that are raised, that we can ensure that that response can be fed through.
Thank you. Can I just, the second question to ask, as you all know, and when the downstream bridge was proposed and in planning, function. There were groups of people who were hoping to, and some did, buy small bits of land to obstruct the process, the planning process. In the end, it wasn't successful, and that was a good thing because we really needed that bridge. But I feel that that opportunity is always there for members of the public who own land in the very long a provision that they will need in terms of land access by X-Link. And so that is always there, that risk is there, that some people who might object to this most strenuously would take that route again. So I do feel that we need to know, what exactly the legal provisions of this would be, and we need to have some kind of effective answer with people who approach us individually as councillors when they show us their concerns.
Chair, could I just come back on that?
You certainly can.
The development consent order process does actually, as part of that, there is a power to compulsorily acquire land. So that's part of the, I guess, sometimes the appeal on these large scale projects that's incorporated, whereas under the Town and Country Planning Act, you wouldn't have that provision, it would be separate legislation. And certainly take your point, Councillor Brenton, around that, the legal aspects and getting that professional advice. I would also say that there are a couple councils across the country who have had a significant number of NSIP, and they've had funding from central government to set up centres of excellence. So we're actually taking a lot of guidance from, in particular, Suffolk and Essex, who have provided guidance documents and have regular webinars that councils like ourselves that are new to the process can learn from best practice. So we're certainly looking for, all the learning we can get to support us and members through the process.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Thank you, you've forgotten my name, haven't you?
I think they're going to allow you to put
No, I've been quiet today. One of the things that I feel is emerging from this conversation is the complexity of this project. And perhaps, and I'll hold up my hand to this, maybe a lack of expertise within our body to be able to unravel and to challenge and to decide these issues. I am concerned, I'm glad to hear that we're going to look at the makeup of the working group, but I would like to add a little bit to that. I think the working group should be given the ability to co-opt independent expert advice from our community. Because you may all argue with me that you're an expert on all sorts of things, and I apologise if you are. But I think we need that support when we are looking at reports and what's going forward. So I would like to add that to our proposal.
Acceptable?
Yeah, I think, it would be for that member working group, let's sort of discuss it and look at what skills or advice is needed, and then it's hopefully finding those experts, isn't it? But I think that's a good idea.
Okay, well,
Sorry, I think isn't that covered in the terms of reference that that the working group can bring in other people?
was it covered in the terms of reference that we could? It may well be, but even if it isn't, we've no.
We're changing the terms of reference by saying that we didn't, sorry. We're changing the terms of reference because we've actually said we don't want the people listed as lead member of this, that and the other, and that we want to look at the best people for the job within that working group.
Councillor Conor Hunting, did you have your hand up?
I'll just second that.
All right, okay. Well, it's been proposed and it's been seconded with that amendment. All those in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 10, productivity and local government, Horridge productivity plan 2024. Pages 187, 195 on your agenda. Chief Executive is going to present with you.
Thank you, Chair. So the reason for having to produce what's called a productivity plan. It was something introduced by the now previous government as a requirement linked to the financial settlement for this current financial year. The general basis and principle for doing so was an overall aim to improve local government service provision, so that local authorities could collaborate, share best practice and share ideas amongst us with the purpose of improvement. The plan itself, attached as the appendix to your agenda, is required to be approved by full council, and we must then submit it to government by the 19th of July, so at the end of this week, and publish it on our website. So what it does in terms of the document, it's kind of like many of the other documents this evening, highlights some of the challenges we face, particularly around our rurality and our peripheral location, in terms of connectivity, transport and the like. Picks on some of the aims and ambitions through the Levelling Up funding we have already received and the Levelling Up partnership. Links to our strategic plan, which again has been mentioned this evening. It's been developed with the widest input from members and stakeholders than was previously the case. Indicates our ambitions, and us as an ambitious council, again reflected in many of the documents you've seen this evening, from our place story, our economic strategy and the growth vision. And underpinning that, the desire and aim of producing a new joint local plan with our neighbouring authority, North Devon. Looked at some of the things we already have in place. So Torridge's performance framework is nationally recognised. Our teams have presented the framework we have for monitoring performance in regional and national sessions. As a council, we deliver on our budgets and on our savings plans. Backed by our financial resilience, which allows us to make better informed future budgetary decisions on a better managed approach rather than needing to make knee-jerk reactions. As a council and set councillors who take difficult decisions in terms of council tax increases, in terms of increasing council tax on second homes, as well as being less risk averse, so set up a leisure services trading company to manage the council's leisure provisions. So there's been distinct member involvement through our strategic plan, economic strategy and growth vision agenda. Our waste and recycling service has been recognised as high performing, and it's enabled Sean, Richard and I to present and showcase how our service operates, sharing that good practice with other authorities. Our planning service has been recognised externally by the Royal Town and Planning Institute. And the next item on the agenda after this one, we're seeking improvement and assurance through the Local Government Association Corporate Peer Challenge. The final thing that we identify and highlight in the plan is some of those barriers that inhibit our progress and stop us improving even further. So for a number of years now, we've had single year financial settlements. That doesn't enable us to produce a really robust medium-term financial plan. There's a number of ring-fenced, unring-fenced, multiple single funding pots which you have to grapple with, all having different principles and requirements of them. There's a top-down approach, particularly centralised approach, especially when we look at setting of fees and charges, planning fees, council tax and the like. We've had to go through rounds and rounds of competitive bidding for government funding, which again utilises very scarce, is resource intensive. The local authority accounting framework, really difficult to navigate. probably not understood by many members of our community, outside of our finance team. Plays a lot on valuing assets, determining pension funds and the like, all of which don't do anything to the bottom line of the council's budget. And finally, it's silo-based government departments. You know, when we're dealing with government departments, we have to deal with multiple departments, even on a single subject. So they're all barriers to our improved productivity. The Chair, the recommendations that member consider the draft productivity plan attached to the report and approve a version to be submitted. I put DLAC on there, but it's no longer DLAC by this 19th of January, and for it to be posted on the council's website.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. James?
Yeah, I'm happy to support it. Well, no, I'm not happy to support it. I will support it. Amongst the other leaders of the councils in Devon, we've all been asking ourselves, why are we doing it? As Steve said, it's been quite a challenge on resources. We're sending it to DULA that doesn't actually exist anymore. It's now the Department of Housing and Local Government, and we're assuming they will receive it. But assumptions are not particularly well based at the moment. But it does highlight everything that goes with all the other reports that are before you. So on that basis, and without knowing where it's going, what's going to happen to it, I would recommend we adopt it and put it onto our website. Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Mr. Hobson seconded that, so no one wants to speak on that. We'll show of hands for everyone in support, please.
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then to item 11, the Torridge Corporate Peer Challenge, pages 196 to 222 on your agenda pack. Once again,
Thanks.
Chief Executive.
Thanks, Chair.
And the leader who's going to present this.
I think I'm going to start and hand over to the leader, Councillor James, to sum up. So members will be aware that Torridge had a local government association corporate peer challenge this year. The actual visit by the peer team took place the last week of April, 22nd to the 25th of April this year. Prior to that, the last peer challenge took place in 2017. I'm sure some members will be aware of that, and one of the key points picked up a number of times through that process was how risk averse as an authority we were. I'm sure we recognise we've moved significantly forward from there. So all members were invited to attend at least one session with the peer team. The actual team met with 85 individuals, so that includes councillors, members of staff, our neighbouring authorities, as well as some external stakeholders. And during their time with us, they had scheduled 13 different workshops. At the close of their visit on Thursday, the 25th, again, all members were invited to attend an informal feedback session and discuss with the peers how the process went and some of the things they found and the recommendations they've made, which I'll come on to in a second. Really key to point out that this process is not an inspection. It's not like Ofsted coming in and looking at everything. You know, it's a critical friend approach, so it's done within the community, within the local government sector, by sector peers. So it's meant to be providing assurance and assistance to local government and local authorities to improve what you're already doing. There's a number of key areas that the team and the process follows. So it looks at local priorities and outcomes. Obviously, much of that we've revisited this evening on some of the strategic documents we've looked at. That links also to organisational and place leadership. What do we understand about our place? How do we lead the place? And how does the organisation work for the place, delivering better outcomes? Looks at governance and culture, you know, what things are in place, like risk management, scrutiny, and the like, to ensure what we do is doing the right things. As you'd expect, a key critical focus on the council's resources, financial resources. So looking at what we do around financial planning and financial management. And finally, looking, if we're aiming to improve, have we got the capacity to improve, especially when you look at the plans we have and the ambitions we have as an authority. So I put up on the screen, it's in the report, both in the main report and my covering report, the makeup of the peer team. So it's a selection of senior officers as well as members selected by the LGA. So we don't select who those peers are. Made up, as you see, from authorities of a similar nature to Torridge in size and rurality. So people from other organisations who are able to help and assist us, taking account of other things that are done elsewhere in the country. For this peer challenge, because the political makeup of Torridge, ordinarily you have one member peer. But in our instance, we had an independent leader from another council, as well as a Liberal Democrat peer from another council. So I've listed there some of the key findings the peer team highlighted following their work. They found that we are an ambitious authority with an aspiration to do things good for the area. And by that, they also recognise that we understand our area, understand the challenges Torridge faces, which is reflected in the strategic plan the council adopted last November. So we had to understand that, to understand the things you want to do to improve the area. Our economic development team, as you heard earlier, is highly regarded, highly respected by peers and highly respected by other partners. As an authority, we are respected by our partners, but we also reflect and recognise we need those partners to be able to deliver our ambitions, our strategy, our objectives. Many of the things in there we can't deliver on our own. So it's key to continue to proactively engage with our partners and work with them collaboratively to ensure we can deliver what we're doing. They recognise we've been successful in the way we've consulted, especially around the consultation on our strategic plan, the way we engage with stakeholders, parish and town councils, the like. I mentioned in the previous report, and it again highlighted by the peer team, that our performance framework is recognised by the LGA and by other authorities as good practice. That's enabled us to tell others what we do and how we measure and monitor our performance compared to others. Our financial statements are of a good quality. Our external auditors have reported this. Again, something picked up by the peer team. The peer team reflected that in their meetings with councillors understand their strategic positioning as compared to officers who are responsible for the operational delivery of your services and the strategic plan. There's a member officer protocol in place which is regarded as fit for purpose. your council workforce is committed, loyal, and recognise that there's a positive working culture within Torridge. So all these are really good and positive messages brought forward by the peer team, things they heard from you, heard from your officers, heard from partners, and heard from other stakeholders. So it's really good to be able to present that to you this evening. As you'd expect, it's not something we'd sit back and rest on our laurels. We know there's always the opportunity for improvement, things we can do better, as well as things we already do good and well. So the peer team has listed a number of recommendations for the council to consider and for the council to consider to act upon. The Levelling Up Fund, that's our Appledore Clean Maritime Innovation Centre project, identified that we might benefit from setting up a partnership board, inviting all partners in to be part of that working project. Our Levelling Up partnership, recognising the work that's already done, recognising what we've already had in place around the place board, but equally referencing that there's a bit more to do about project management, project analysis, and working with the government department. On the huge amount of work we have to deliver through our strategic plan, through our Appledore Innovation Centre, through the relocation of our operational service centre, major and significant projects on top of what was billed as a £20 million Levelling Up Fund. So some significant investment in capacity would be needed. Member development and member behaviour was highlighted. So low attendance at a number of member workshops, briefing sessions, and some poor councillor behaviour was highlighted as needed addressing and acknowledging. A review of some of our internal procedures around the work of the leadership team, for example, call-ins and the use of Part 2. Your statutory officers, so myself, Stacey and Gordon, should meet on a more formal basis, in addition to the meetings we already have every Monday. Things around financial stability, looking at the medium-term financial planning and ensuring that we've built in savings plans that come from the member budget working group. Looking at our risk management, how we report that, linking that to our financial strategies. Again, touching on partnership working, whilst we respected, there's still opportunities to continue to proactively engage and work on some of those key partnerships we have. Around climate change, being clearer, especially through our business planning and service plans, the performance measures that we will be monitoring against. Looking again more internally, reviewing our HR policies as there's some perceived inconsistencies in the implementation of them. And finally, communications, particularly around celebrating our successes. You know, we do communicate well, but sometimes don't tell others outside the organisation things we've done well. And we're really a corporate communication strategy that will help develop that. So finally, just to summarise from me, I think, overall there's really a good balance there between what's going well, what the council is doing good, but some areas we can improve on. So we're required to publish the report by the 25th of July. And we're also required then to submit an action plan by the end of September 2024. So what will happen after that is we'll schedule a review by the peer team to come back in February 2025. So the proposal is that the recommendations contained in the report will put into an action plan. the recommendation from the report is that that's delegated to myself to liaise and work with the group leaders to draft a draft action plan and to report that back to the full council meeting on the 9th of September. Within that action plan, then we can assign the specific actions to the lead member and a member of our senior management team to work with that lead member to implement those recommended actions, and that the group leaders group oversee that progress towards next February. However, during that intervening period, to report back to full council in November and January to ensure as a council we're ready for that scheduled review process in February 2025. And finally, to engage with the local government association, particularly our regional principal advisor, to help support and facilitate some of the work we need to do, particularly around the member development working group and those reviews that need to be done on the council's constitution. As some members will remember, we set up a constitution working group some years ago to do something similar previously. So, Chair, there's the report, the recommendations that are contained in the report. I'll hand you over to the leader, Councillor James, before we move to questions.
Thank you, Chief Exec. Thank you. Councillor, thank you, Chair. I've not done a long speech, it's all there. I would like to highlight a few things. Obviously, we've conveyed our thanks to the peer group for their coming to us, spending 3 intensive days talking to people and formulating the report. And the things I'd like to pick up on is, I would hope mostly the good things, that the member development group we need to look at, because our training that's been put on, it's been poorly attended. We need to know why and what we're going to do, what we can do to make it more attractive for members to attend, although I would hope that they would attend anyway, but we will be looking at that as a member group. I think also, I think the other thing it did pick out on the whole, there's a good officer-member relationship. I think the officers are accessible to all members, and I expect it to be done in a proper manner, and so I think that is a positive thing. The HR policies, I've spoke to the HR officer today about how we're getting on with developing that. And also, I've never been one for banging a drum, because so often things come back and bite you, but I think sometimes we do need to point out that we are a successful council, we are achieving a lot, and we've got a lot on the agenda to achieve. I think there's going to be quite a bit of work for the group leaders meeting, on group leaders to have meetings to discuss the stuff they're going to do. The only other thing, perhaps on the downside, is the behaviour of some councillors. And on Friday, I've got, I don't know if it's a privilege or what, I've ended up with the vice chair of South West Councils for the whole of Gloucester to Dorset to, and one of the things on discussion there was that there is a bit of a deterioration almost nationally of whether it's always there, but it's more relevant that some of the behaviour could be better than what it is. And I think that is an awful shame, and I'm sorry to highlight it, but I think it needs to be highlighted. But I regard it as a good report. There's no real downside. It's about what we can do to improve. And that is the challenge, and that's what we should accept, is that we don't want a report that tells us we're wonderful. We want a report that tells us what we could do better, and we've got that. And so I'm happy to follow the recommendations, which I've not brought up here with me. On the screen, sorry, I'm reading downwards. I don't want to do this yet. We received the corporate peer challenge and approve it to be published on the council website. we delegate to the chief executive work with group leaders to prepare a draft plan to report to full council on the 9th of September 24, that we consider the recommendations of the report and how we should be implementing them, and arrange for a monitoring progress against the actions, so that we can move that to the LJ corporate peer review that we've scheduled for February 24. So I think to all of you that took part, well done and thank you. I've had some feedback, as did Steve personally, and I think on the whole, they enjoyed being here, and they enjoyed their work. And I think that's a tribute to all of us here and the officers. So thank you very much. Thank you. And I'll move the recommendation.
Can I please ask a question?
Yes, you are.
That when you review your actions from these results, can you please address the leadership meeting issue? Because it's a bit of a bugbear, as you know, that it's an unofficial meeting, but if we don't attend as councillors during the day, on that day, we don't get up to speed, as it were, with things that are unofficially going on. And actually, a lot of the time, that information is quite key. And I know it's a tricky one, and you've got the whole part 2 issue, but I don't see why it couldn't be online somehow, because to travel around the countryside, for those of us that are further away, it just seems like a waste of time, and you will
Can I
basically.
just respond to that? Yeah. Councillor Dart, we've already tried and work that out, how to
Thank
do it. And Tuesdays aren't a good day for some people, so we're having to look at the whole thing about how we do it. And obviously, there's this balance between what we can disclose in part 2 and when it's out there anyway. But we are, and I think that will be something that will come to good leaders, that we need to have a discussion about how we improve it. What did confuse the peer review, if I'm bluntly honest about it, is they were confused about the leadership being the group that directs where we're going as a council, and the leadership group as being an information supplier. So what we need to look at is how we probably have a group or formation that actually makes sure we're delivering our strategic plan and everything like that, and that we're moving forward. But at the same time, we need to have a briefing meeting or some form of briefing, so that everybody gets that briefing. It may be we do it on Zoom, and we can be much more open with the minutes, rather than trying to do everything in one basket. We need to look at exactly what we're going to try and deliver. And I think they got very confused about it, and the more we looked at it, I wouldn't say we got confused, but we could see the issues, and we've been absolutely discussing that prior to this. And there are things about the day, the daytime. I accept, you know, we're all getting older, and most of us anyway, not all of you, most of us are getting older. I wouldn't say we can spare the time, but we put the time to being here in the day. Whereas people with careers and that sort of thing, I have it with my own family, and I say to them, what are you going to do? And they're saying, pay the mortgage, raise the children, and then we think about the other bits afterwards. And I think that is a society we've grown up in, is that there is a lot of pressure on young people. So I don't expect them to give up work, give up career prospects in order to be here. It would be nice to think there's a balance, and I think we have to facilitate that balance as the leaders of the council. So I fully endorse it. We're not sure what the answers are, but hopefully within the group leaders and talking to the chief exec, we can come up with a better way of doing it, and how we actually separate, but still keep everything informed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, sir. I've got Councillor Mrs. Brenton first.
Thank you, Chair. Right, well, we did have a discussion about this at the last leadership meeting, as those who were there know. I must say, we certainly weren't told that we were wonderful in that report. Far from it. The main observation that came out was that we didn't communicate well, and that's very contradictory to what the chief executive said. He said we do communicate well, but he said, although we do communicate well, We don't communicate the things that we've done well to people. Again, highly contradictory. And also, it absolutely was manifest at that meeting last Tuesday that we don't communicate well between officers and members. Many members who were there said that they didn't really know the proper channels to go to get information they needed. And that was very, very commonplace among the people attending that meeting. So, you know, that's incredibly contradictory. And it was a point that came out again and again in that peer review that there was confusion about how councillors could communicate with the officers and how officers communicated with councillors and provided them with the information they needed. That absolutely was what came out of the wash-up meeting on the 25th of April. And the other two things I'd like to point out were the HR consistencies. This isn't in part two. That's a very worrying aspect, that not everybody is treated fairly and the same on this council. Well, you know, that's a surprise. But seriously, it is extraordinary that HR isn't administered even-handedly in a generic way across the whole of the personnel on this council, because it should be. Now, we don't know what these inconsistencies were. That's a bit of a euphemism. We don't know what the inconsistencies are. They could be trivial, but they could be very serious. And we don't know that. We just know they're there. Again, a lack of communication. I mean, I don't know where that can be addressed, but we should know what these inconsistencies are. As somebody who was a non-executive on the Health Trust, you know, if there were inconsistencies in HR, that was highlighted to the board immediately, because otherwise there would have been a court case. And the final thing is, the wash-up meeting also talked about member behaviour. They did use a word which isn't in this report, but they did use it, and also hasn't been in the summaries that have been given. And again, we don't know who that was addressed to, how broad it was, whether it was more than one member, you know, I don't know who it could have been, but it could have been anyone. But I do think it's very bad that we are told there are these problems with the council and with interpersonal relationships that are vital to the proper administration of the council, but we don't know anything about the details. How can you solve a problem when you don't know what the problem is? You've just got some euphemistic term that covers it so that you can move on to the next problem or the next issue. It's not good enough. That report was not very good. It wasn't poor. It didn't say we were terrible, but it didn't say that we were wonderful, and it certainly didn't say that we were communicating well. And then it brought up all these other issues that we have to address. We really need to address these issues, and we need to know what the problem is in order to solve it.
Right, I've got a number of speakers, but I will get to you, Councillor Hames, Councillor Brenton, Councillor Brenton.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as Councillor Mrs. Brendan's pointed out, this is not the glowing report. I mean, you must read between the lines. They obviously, the peer team weren't going to be, you know, saying horrible things in those terms to us, but you've got to understand what they were really getting at. And the first thing I'd like to ask is on page 6, on the page, the third paragraph, it talks about regular formal meetings will provide the opportunity to identify and address governance risks and issues that may arise. And then it talks about a recently published Local Government Association Improvement Assurance Framework for Local Government. Have we got a copy of that? Has that been circulated? Do we have a copy of that? They recommend that we do. So one of the points I want to make is that I think this council is not very democratic. There are many members here whose opinions and views, I have no idea what they are. They don't speak at meetings. Why? Partly it's because they don't know what the hell is going on. I've recently been going to, you know, Councillor James will say that in the past, I didn't go to many leadership meetings. I thought, well, what's the point? They don't have any powers to decide anything. But actually, there were a lot of things being decided at that leadership meeting, which were then filtered in surreptitiously into our policy. Not good enough. I did make it clear to the people I spoke to on the peer committee that I felt that we are not operating democratically enough. We have one committee that makes decisions, and you're not all on it. And you should be. We've only got one committee that makes all the decisions, apart from planning, of course, because they have delegated powers, fair enough. But all the other stuff decided by CNR. Yeah, that simply isn't good enough. I mean, I could hark back to the day when I was on this council originally, and when we had 4 committees, they came to full council with their reports. They were challenged. They could be overturned. You had democracy. That's how it worked. So it meant that if you were working, and back then I was in my late 30s, with a family, with a business, I was a busy person, but I could still participate in the council business because it went to full council and you could challenge, even planning. You can ask the chair of planning, how did you arrive at that decision? And challenge them on it. You couldn't change it, but nonetheless, they knew they put it up there for scrutiny. We don't do enough of that. It's not good enough, I'm afraid. It makes me feel sometimes like, what the hell's the point of going to council? Yeah. What's being decided? Are you being involved enough? You should be. You should feel that what you think and what for your constituents in particular is actually expressed at these council meetings, and you put it forward. You may not win them. I mean, good ends talk to me. I mean, I lose loads of stuff, don't I? But you know, you should at least have the opportunity. And this peer review, I think we have got an opportunity to really change things. So we're going to have group leaders. We don't have enough of that, Councillor James. You know that, and moan about it all the time. But we are no overall control council. No one particular party runs this council. But it appears like it is. And I bring to mind what happened with CNR recently over what would happen with the membership of it. 3 political parties decided that. The Liberal Democrats, the Independents, and the Conservatives. They decided what would happen there. Good for you. You did have an unofficial coalition, if you like, but if it's going to be made formal, let's hear about it. I want to see it, not leave it to guesswork. So we have got a lot of work to do, and I think we should have some radical changes to improve this council.
Councillor Carol Hunter, I believe you had your hand up.
Almost,
Not a long time ago. But I
almost
think you
forgot
still
what
have.
it was. It was related to what Councillor Dart was saying about the meetings, and in my discussion with the peer review, we talked about hybrid meetings, which is what I think you were meaning. Where so it's great that we've got the YouTube recordings which we can follow live and look back on, but with a hybrid meeting we could have input. We couldn't vote like a lot of other councils have the hybrid meetings. So I think that would be a positive step forward.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Haynes was first.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just following on from Councillor Brent, and Annie Brenton, you know, talking about behaviour, also relating to a review of procedure and the way decisions are made. Well, we've got this sort of general comments in the peer review, but unless we know what individual examples the people are referring to, I don't see how we can address them. So I hope that's going to be looked at when we meet as group leaders to go through the peer review. Of course, at the moment, it doesn't really mean anything to me.
Councillor Piper,
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
the last one. But
Just to slightly counter Councillor Brenton's, but with due respect, actually, we're probably at slightly different levels of experience of being councillors. But as a new councillor, I did just want to say that actually I found the leadership meetings helpful. I found it somewhere where I could understand the workings of the council. It wasn't always easy to leave work for yet another afternoon. I take on board that that's being considered. You know, and the fact that it was linking in major projects, so you could understand the progress of major project updates. I realise perhaps if you've been on the council for a bit longer, you might get long in the tooth of non-decision making meetings like that, but it was helpful for me as a new councillor.
Councillor Newton.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say, as one of the few people councillors who attended the verbal wash-up at the end of the peer group review, that the summary that we've just heard from Councillor Mrs. Brenton on verbally what was said, in my book, is about accurate and correct.
Thank you.
Right, okay, well, it's been Have you proposed that we accept that?
Chair.
No, let's leave it, councillor Hicks. Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every body like this that goes out has to find something wrong to justify their existence. As someone who's been on this council for 25 years, I've seen a number of peer reviews go through, and I well remember, as does councillor Brenton, the peer review we had back in about 2003, when the Lib Dem Council was criticised as the third worst council in the country and with a culture of bullying. I think you'll confirm that, councillor Brenton.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, but there we are. Now, running on, the last Conservative administration was told they were risk adverse.
They were, yes.
Now, I am very glad they were, because those members of the LGA were looking for them to do things. We've only got to look around at these councils going bust now. Torridge is financially secure. So all in all, it's nitpicking to justify their existence.
Can I just add that I was still at school when the.
That's a poor issue.
Right, okay, it's been proposed, councillor James, you proposed that, who seconded it? Councillor Hackett. All in favour, please show.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Right, so the next one isn't going to be as long or as contentious, because we've still got a few others. Item 12, community sponsorship scheme, pages 223 to 246 on your agenda.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, just before you go.
Can I just register a non-pecuniary interest in this item?
And Cynthia,
Declaration of interest, not.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I will try and keep this as brief as possible, but I've been approached by Pickwell, who Torridge work with very closely, and we have done for the last couple of years in relation to the Ukraine resettlement scheme. They've done a really fantastic job with us, actually, in terms of we have 74 Ukrainian nationals within the Torridge area, and I'm really pleased to say that that scheme's gone really well. Mainly because of the hard work that Pickwell have done in meeting with them, ironing out any issues. And actually, I think our first fear in relation to that scheme was that we would have many present for temporary accommodation when that is already a pressure for us. But we've had none of that. Actually, I think we've had two approaches. In the main, they've worked really well, keeping the families with their host and sponsor families, so that's been fantastic. So I can attest to the work that they do. A community sponsorship scheme is similar, but it enables community organisations to directly help refugees settle within the UK. So Pickwell have approached us. The reason Councillor Tinsley and Councillor Craigie have declared their interest, they don't mind me saying, we've spoken to Councillor Tinsley, they are part of the community group that is proposing to assist a settlement within the UK, within the Torridge area. So the community sponsor will be allocated a family that is fleeing conflict, and it will be that community group that is responsible for all their support from the moment they arrive in the UK. They'll help them with housing, access to language if that's needed, access to healthcare, registering them, etc., etc. Also, what the community sponsorship group does is raise a sum of money, and that has to be a minimum of £9,000 before that family arrive in the UK. From Torridge's perspective, we've been approached because before they make the application to the Home Office, they have to have consent from both local authorities, so Devon County Council, and from Torridge Council, just in relation to the resources in the area. So obviously county will be in relation to health and education, and Torridge in relation to housing. With this one, Pickwell already own a property that they will offer to the fleeing family, and they've confirmed that they will give the family a tenancy for a minimum of 2 years, which is required under the legislation as well. So I'm happy to take any questions. I have met with the community group, and they have a wide range of expertise that covers all areas that the family might need assistance with. So at this stage, nothing for Torridge to do at all. It will all be on the community group to provide the wraparound support from picking them up from the airport, from language lessons to registration, etc. So yeah, so just to confirm as well, Devon County have already given their consent, so Torridge is the last consent.
Thank you, Stacey. Councillor Brown.
Propose we support the application,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Second.
Councillor Hodgson seconded that. All in favour, please, unless there's any other discussion, all in favour, please, Shell? Unanimous, is it? Darling, so no against and abstentions. Just the 2 abstentions.
29 for and 2 abstentions, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacey. Okay, moving on to item 13, to answer questions submitted under rule A9. So we've got 2 questions. The first from Councillor Bright, so you've got the written question and the written answer. Would you like to ask this supplementary, Councillor Bright?
Well, yeah, I'd say, well, good, because I don't think it's worth the money even at zero. I would like to, follow-up question, when will it actually be fully operational? Because it's been out of operation for nearly a year now, or maybe more. Pretty much since it's been installed.
Well, thank you. I'm sure this will take that on board. The next question was from Councillor Ford. He's not here, but you've seen the question and you can read the reply. Okay, moving over the page to item 14. This is a motion. We've got one notice motion from Councillor Brenton. Thank you. Brenton, over to you to present that.
I've got a seconder. Yes, CNR and its composition. I think this is a step, hopefully a step in the road to making us more democratic. Each group should have at least one member on CNR, as it's a deciding body, irrespective of, well, it only takes 2 people to form a group. It's a group, and they should all be, each group should be represented. The rest of the mathematics works, we'll leave to poor old Tom Banstone there to work that one out, but depending on how many groups there are, but nonetheless, and then that will go to group leaders to be verified.
Okay, well, it's been proposed, it's been seconded. Anyone that wishes to support that, please show. Against? No abstentions? Does that figure still add up? Right, okay. Proposed and seconded, so all those in support, councillor Brown's motion.
No, go on. Not your conscience, I was telling you.
You shouldn't be so lucky.
And against,
Except desperate.
abstentions,
6 for, 16 against and 9 abstentions.
3 not.
Yes.
Thank you.
Not a political council, I see.
20 past 8, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.